This season on Navigating Abroad, we're back at the World AI Festival in Cannes, talking to some of the brightest leaders in artificial intelligence. We'll be delving into the important questions around the impact of AI on our world, what the ethical implications are, and how we can ensure these technologies are used for good. Dominick Romano is a creative technologist and award-winning inventor who founded DrainPipe.io, a neural computing platform for managing AI models in rapidly changing environments. His research includes transforming emergency management, humanitarian relief, and AI for healthcare. Recently, DrainPipe.io signed on to provide research for AI for radiological healthcare to the United Nations, World Health Organization, and the International Telecommunications Union. Dominick's mission is to provide fair and equitable access to AI for the advancement of social good. Dominick, welcome to this season of Navigating Abroad. It is so wonderful to see you again here in Cannes.
Thank you for having me.
So as a dynamic founder, I really was inspired by meeting you last year at the Meta AI Research Dinner. I was blown away by some of the ideas that you were bringing into reality. Can you tell us a little bit about DrainPipe and what's motivating you in that space to bring distributed storage and innovation to the market?
Yeah, so when I met you at the Meta Global Leadership Dinner last year, a lot of my focus was in how do I bring this concept of modifying multimedia so that we can take, like, for instance, a image of a missing person or missing woman and generate multiple photos of that individual using synthetic views in AI, so that you can take what's normally a sparse record of a missing person and turn it into a high fidelity series of photos of that individual, which can then be used to better identify them and better bring them home in the event they need to be found.
So it's really about making sure that the places where technology can sometimes have misses in terms of image recognition, so being able to proliferate additional images from different directions, it increases the likelihood that if their image is captured somewhere else, that you're going to have a match versus
Absolutely.
What happens today, where oftentimes the data can't recognize itself because it's not quite in the right
Absolutely. And
angle.
when you train AI models today, it requires having extremely specific data in certain domains that you're looking to train a model for.
And labeled data.
Yeah, so it has to be extremely specific, and the best way to do that is to simulate the specific data that you're looking to train into a model, which is why that brings me to why I was here this year.
Makes total sense, because we're seeing that a lot as an emerging use case in places like healthcare, or anywhere that has regulatory bodies that are going to be cautious for very good reason about releasing data that's personally identifiable. So by being able to create these synthetic pieces of data, you can really make sure that you get through the validation and training of the models to the fidelity that you need before you're asking people to trust your technology.
Absolutely. And like, what's also an important thing to touch on for the regulation side of this is that when you're taking photos of an individual and then you're turning it into a 3D representation of them, you're essentially creating synthetic genetic data of their representation, right, and who they are. And that's where there's been a lot of legal concern, even in America, over how we regulate what people are doing with our data on social media platforms and just abroad, right? Because
Absolutely.
That's an issue. And then, here in Europe, they've been very forward thinking in the regulation and compliance side of, not only regulating private data, but also regulating data with respect to artificial intelligence. And it better prepares the companies here to be able to step forward where, we still have a little bit of catching up to do home.
True.
Yeah, and so what I've also kind of found helpful is I became a contributor of AI for radiology at the UN with the UN and World Health Organization with Darlington, and that it gave me a lot of insight to better regulate artificial intelligence models for medical use. So now
it's a very delicate domain.
Yes.
And you can't afford to be wrong in healthcare. Lives are literally on the line. So I think it's so inspiring to see how you started with some use cases that were very philanthropic in nature, but it generalizes to such compelling business cases in any regulated industry, whether that's finance, whether that's insurance, whether that's healthcare, all the places that maybe haven't moved as fast as they would like to because they have to be, you can't just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. Sure. It's a little bit different table stakes than advertising, marketing, things of that nature. So it's really exciting to hear how you're taking these concepts to be able to accelerate all of these entrepreneurs that have been locked behind a data wall and have the problem of they have the vision, they know what they want to do, but getting the data to train the models and really prove it out is incredibly difficult.
There's a lot of power in having a synthetic environment for doing any kind of simulation and training. So even when you look at what we experienced with the whole COVID pandemic, right, globally, today we have laboratories that are simulating the ecology of virus and how virus spreads to understand what's occurring and why. But part of the problem that we have when we start looking at how that data makes its way into artificial intelligence is that the geolocation of disease changes the makeup of what that disease actually looks like and how it accelerates throughout a body or proliferates. And so, part of my message has been that rather than having physical laboratories where we're physically growing and building viruses to understand them better, we should have synthetic environments that are doing it because we have to move the virus in location anyway to actually get a better understanding of how it's going to impact someone. Because if you take a medical sample of a patient from Ghana and then you train those labels into a model, you can't use that model on a patient in Silicon Valley because the ecology of the virus is so different.
Really eye-opening, and what an amazing step in innovation to be able to de-risk scientific discovery and be able to improve outcomes for a broader population by removing some of the just physical constraints of the world that we live in. So we heard a lot about different trends this year at this conference. I would love to get your point of view on what are the trends for 2023 we should all be paying more attention to.
So this year, last year was an amazing event too.
It was?
There was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of excitement, a jovial excitement about just this being the first AI event globally, right? And so now this year, this was a lot more serious of a conversation where governments are waking up to the need to utilize this technology for humanity. And we're seeing a lot more serious discussions of, all right, well, what are the next steps? We understand that this can be used. We need to understand how. And what I think is going to start happening more and more in the next 3 to 8 months, and especially as we get toward the end of this year, we're going to start seeing that these synthetic environments can help reduce risk for humanity. It can reduce risk for proliferation of disease, of terrorism. It can
anything that spreads. And any contagions.
Yes, any contagions. And I think that we're going to see that we can teach artificial intelligence models so much more by using these synthetic environments. And it's really going to change the world, I think, in the next 18 months.
I couldn't agree more. It felt like this year had a sense of urgency about how to operationalize AI. And I think a lot of that became with innovations like the large language models with ChatGPT. People finally who weren't deeply technical could see the power in a simple user interface. So how are you thinking about how you can make your capabilities user-friendly and accessible to the people that are thinking through the business problems, the people that are thinking through the legal frameworks, the people that are thinking through public safety, the government officials? We shouldn't all have to become AI scientists and mathematicians to be able to use this stuff. So what are you doing at DrainPipe that's helping to make it more accessible to a broader audience?
That's a great point and a great question. So we the way I've started thinking about this from day one was I'm not an AI specialist or I wasn't when I started, right? And so I wanted to think about how an organization can enable everyone on their team and all of their manpower to team with AI to drive better outcomes within an organization or within
and co-create, right?
Yes.
It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 4.
Exactly.
Because the machines have different strengths than the humans do.
Yeah.
And when we can let everything run in alignment, you can get outcomes that were never possible without.
Exactly. So by having intuitive visual tools where a human can jump right into it and start using a tool that really just makes sense to them, right? And having data management and correlation visuals that help understand what is being trained into a model, I think helps with the compliance side of it. It helps with managing what the model knows. For me, I could have jumped into that a little bit sooner and put out some additional research on this space before the increase and surge of like ChatGPT, right? But I wanted to hold back because when you're making an innovation like we're making at Drainpipe, it's really important that that process is handled with care and with respect and with integrity for the potential risks that are associated to such a powerful innovation. And so in being mindful of that, I wanted to see what the landscape looks like as it starts to bloom, because I already see, we're seeing some landmark legal cases that are starting to form now as a result of how we scrape data to train artificial intelligence models for generative AI.
Yeah. And as insiders in the industry, we have been for a few years. I'm surprised it took this long, to be honest.
Yeah, and who wants to be the person that landmark case is aiming at?
No, thank you. No, thank you at all.
Exactly.
It sounds to me like you've been kind of a pioneer in the low to no code data management for scaling up model technology. Am I understanding that correctly with Drainpipe? Is that what you guys do?
So by making some innovations in how we work with data, we made a big innovation mathematically in using certain mathematical formulas that are normally used for physics in training heterogeneous ontologies, which a heterogeneous ontology is it's an ontology graph of meanings, which can be made up of any form of data. And so by taking these graphs that are pretty intuitive to the mind to understand and work with, and training those graphs into artificial intelligence models. But before we do that, we're using state-of-the-art compression algorithms that haven't been used in combination with artificial intelligence before.
Ding, 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 cost savings on all your data transfers.
Yes, so you're saving cost. Yeah, you're saving cost on how much it takes you to send the data back and forth, to store it, to train it into a model, because now you have all this data represented into a tighter space.
Yep.
The model can be smaller, but you're not losing any of the fidelity that's associated to the data points that you're training.
And it's also a sustainability action, right? So the smaller the data, the less energy it takes to run and validate. So you're really hitting it from all sides. You get the benefit to the environment, you get the benefit to the humans of having more models in the wild that can be helping in these really core areas of quality of life for people.
Yeah.
And then you're also getting the cost savings. So you have the business ROI. So nobody has to go to the finance department with I want to go save the world, and here's why I think we need to do it. They can come in and show a justifiable business case as to how to accelerate the goals that are already the goals of the company.
Absolutely. How
do we just do it better, faster, smarter, and more innovative? So I think we learn as humans more from our failures than our successes.
Yeah.
For our audience who may be going into new domains and trying out new muscles, can you share a failure with us that you learned from that you actually are glad you had?
So with building an innovative technology like this that has such an implicative future, right? This thing can hit so many different things.
Absolutely.
And to have this one idea that you have to build a entire technology around in order to prove that it works. What I struggled with, especially in the last year or so in trying to attract the proper attention and usage volume is jumping from one thing to another as far as features.
Yep.
And rather
trying to find that product market fit.
That, and then also really trying to find the proper attention for the work that's being done. And
yep.
What I think a lot of technology companies need to be mindful of is making sure that when they're making product decisions, they're not doing it with the idea of chasing investment or chasing attention, or reacting to a popular market, right? No FOMO, because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that what you're actually solving, you can solve very well and efficiently, and then repeat that process over and over again, so that it gives you the resources to then add additional features over time.
Yeah, I love that. You want to fail fast. If you are deploying products you're proud of, you launch too late.
Yeah.
And it's really about the market feedback that helps you know where to invest your upgrades in, because once you see what the demand is, you know what problems matter and what problems don't matter as much to consumers, even if it's your original idea you're trying to solve, right?
Yeah, and also too, from a technology standpoint, when you're building a technology, it's almost like a rocket movie where you're building a rocket, you have to send it off, and then it's going to blow up. Then you got to build another rocket, send it off, and the more you can run through that process, the cheaper and less expensive it gets to figure out what's going wrong, and the faster you can send rockets up and iterate. And so it's really important to have a process that you're iterating, that's solid, and then go to the next one, rather than kind of trying to build half rockets and send them all off.
See what happens.
Well. Yeah, it doesn't.
So for folks that are interested in reducing their spends on data storage, that are looking to accelerate their time to market for model validation, that are looking for ways to solve for AI situations that we haven't technically been able to accomplish quite yet. And I know video compression is a huge piece of the cost of a lot of development. How do they learn more about DrainPipe, and where do they go to find you?
So you can go to our website, drainpipe.io. I'm actively on LinkedIn, so I'm always there. It's Dom Romano, LinkedIn /Dom Romano. I'm actively on Twitter as well. I think it's D Romano CPM. And I'm always writing articles, and I'm pretty actively out there, kind of trying to shape the future in this space.
Well, hopefully for some in our audience that are feeling grounded in what they know and looking to make that leap forward, they can connect with you to help have a Sherpa through this new world we're all.
I welcome that too, because I think that everybody kind of needs to be collaborative in the approach that we're taking with this, because we can't just rely on the experts anymore in these subjects. Each and every one of us has a unique story and have a unique perspective on solving a problem in one way or another, and we all should take ownership of that and use that to our advantage, and just validate everything we do, and become experts in our own way, right? It's kind of like that idea, being an initiate of the flame. So give that effort to a greater good, in knowing that we're all unique, and we have a job to do while we're here.
And I do feel like my journey into AI entrepreneurship really helped me to see that when you focus on a mission bigger than yourself, you can really start to find your people. And you can really start to see the magic that can happen in co-creation. And success is a team sport, right?
Absolutely is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for your time today, Dom. We really appreciate it.
I really appreciate this. This was like a really important thing I wanted to do to see you, and I'm really happy we got the chance. We had a crazy year.